deal with that, you can deal with this.
If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. Hey homie, welcome to the sesh. Today's story is a good one, so grab yourself a bev, roll up, light up, do whatever you need to do to activate chill mode to listen to today's story. You already know we got some of that plant-based medicine rolled up. All right, let's get into this story. Cheers. So today's story is centered on the Beckwith family. And this story started in the early 2000s in Seymour, Connecticut. When the Beckwiths were looking to relocate. And they found themselves in the town of Seymour, Connecticut. Now, this area is known for having its fair share of battles between the Native Americans and the settlers. So it's no stranger to like traumatic things happening on the land. So the family, the Beckwiths, they end up like stumbling like upon this house that just like captures their attention. They're like, ooh, we like that one. So they kind of roll up to the property, and as they do, Bonnie, the mom, and her husband and a couple of her kids, they have 3 kids in total, 2 girls and 1 boy. Everyone kind of was like, wow, oh my gosh, you know, kind of blown away by this property, and they really liked the looks of it, except for Bonnie's oldest daughter, Jessica. She just didn't...
Always one.
Right. She just did not vibe with the house at all. Just off the first look, she was like, nope, don't like it. And Bonnie thought like, oh, she's just being like a regular teen, you know, having those feelings of like starting over and relocating in a new house in a new town. So she didn't really think anything of it at first. The family ends up liking the house, and Bonnie ends up like getting in touch with the real estate agent that's managing that property. They all go to look at the house. They all like it still, except for Jessica. She's getting like really creeped out, and just like the vibe of the house is just really off to her.
Just being an awkward teenager.
Yeah.
Really. How old is she? The oldest, you said?
She was about like 16 or 17.
Yeah, that's like teenage vibes. Like, oh, everyone likes it, I'm gonna hate it. Like,
classic angsty teen.
Yeah.
So the family took a vote, and unfortunately, Jessica was voted out. So the family bought the house. They purchased the home. They're moving in. They're all excited. Jeremy, who's 9, and the other daughter, Jennifer, who's 15, they're super excited, you know, after the family moves in, because they get their own rooms. Everyone has their own rooms, right? So they're super excited about that. They're moving in and getting all settled in and stuff, kind of claiming their space around the house. They're decorating, whatever. Jessica still cannot shake this feeling. She goes up to Bonnie and tells her, I don't like this house. I hate it here. It's evil. It's negative. It's strange. I don't like it.
Jeez.
Way
to be a downer. Like, shit.
Right.
Rain on the parade.
But little did they know, her feelings would soon be right. So a little bit of time passes, and after they're all settled in, one night, 9-year-old Jeremy, he's sleeping in his bed, and he's just woken up by like the sounds of like voices. And he gets like super freaked out about this. So he jumps up, runs in Bonnie's room, telling her like what happened and everything. And she's just like, oh, it's a new house. It makes noises, and you know, just
a nightmare. Like,
yeah, just trying to comfort him and get him off to bed, really. So she brings him back to his room, and she tells him, hey, if you see or hear any more noises, here's this toy flashlight. And the flashlight switched from green to red. So she said, put it on green, the monsters will go away. So this kind of comforted him and everything. So
it's pretty good.
So Bonnie goes back to bed thinking like, okay, he's good now, right? And she went back to bed. So as Jeremy is trying to get comfortable back in his bed and go back to sleep, he's awakened by another noise again, by voices. And this time, he jumps up and he flashes the light. And as he does this, he sees like a shadow, like go by really quick. And this freaks him out. So he's like, he puts the covers over his head. And as he did this, a few seconds later, the blankets were just completely ripped from him and thrown across the room.
No.
And he was so scared.
No, not right.
And poor little Jeremy, he didn't go wake up his parents again. So he kind of just had to like deal with this and try to like go back to sleep. He was petrified, but like,
what a G. He was like, yeah, my parents are gonna help me here. Like, it's above their pay grade.
So the next morning, Jeremy is having breakfast with the family and everything, and he mentions it to Bonnie again, what he was experiencing as he was trying to go back to sleep. And Bonnie, she's taking it into account, but she is still kind of like, kind of a little bit dismissive about it. Like, she wasn't really too sure how to comfort him either, how to like make him feel better. You know what I mean? Yeah. So she was kind of like, kind of scratching her head a little bit.
Gonna be an exorcism fucking type of shit.
So a couple weeks go by, and Jeremy is still having these like scary experiences at night. And Jennifer, the 15-year-old, she would soon start to have experiences of her own that start happening to her as well. One night she was sitting in her room in front of her mirror, just like brushing her hair. And she recalls that night just feeling like there was like someone standing right behind you watching you, right? And it just was an eerie feeling. Yeah. So later that night, she's off to bed and she gets woken up by none other than her little brother, Jeremy. And he's like, I can't sleep. And he's complaining about some of the things that are going on. And she's like, shut up, get away from me, go back to sleep, classic teenage sibling. And so she's like, why are you even in my room? What are you doing? And he explains to her, like, I keep hearing voices and something is calling my name. And she's like, what?
Shit.
Yeah.
It knows its name. Damn. Youngest?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, shit.
So she's trying to say, oh, you're just having bad dreams. It's a nightmare. It's a really intense dream. Blah, blah, blah. Go back to bed. So he's like, whatever. Screw this. You don't even believe me. I'm going to sleep with mom and dad. So he does. He was like,
that's a good
screw
impression
you. Yeah. Thanks. I worked on it.
Whatever. Screw you. Eat my shorts.
Eat my shorts.
Eat my shorts.
So he goes and he gets in bed with his parents, right? So shortly after this, after being woken up by Jeremy, Jennifer, she's trying to get back to bed. She's tossing a little bit, right? And so she's finally falling asleep when she feels what she describes as the feeling of fists punching through the other side of the bed. So how she describes it as a bunch of fists punching as hard as they could, like through the bottom of the mattress.
Mayweather in the fucking bottom, from under the bed.
Yeah.
Damn.
And it made her jump out of the bed and it was so unexplainable. She couldn't explain like what just happened, what she just felt, and like where it was coming from had to be from underneath the bed, like straight up. So she's looking all around the room. She looks under the bed, doesn't see anything, and she's terrified. She's like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah. The mom has to like listen to the fucking kids now. She's not angry.
Jennifer, like after this like first experience, she kind of felt weirded out by the fact that maybe like, should I tell my parents? Should I not? So she ended up keeping this first experience to herself.
Oh my God.
Yeah, she actually didn't really end up saying anything about it because she was worried, her parents were just gonna like brush it off and not take it serious and think that she's making it up or something. So
document it still.
Yeah, like take a mental note of what just happened. But Jeremy's, Jeremy can attest he's having his own issues, but again, he's 9 and like, unfortunately, not everyone will believe a 9-year-old. So this ends up like actually eating at Jennifer. And
because she didn't tell anybody.
very shortly after, a couple days, just ends up cracking and just telling her mom what happened. And Bonnie is listening, and Bonnie's kind of like already has
her classic response. No.
She's already a little skeptical, but seeing how visibly upset and emotional Jennifer was getting, her mommy instincts kicked right in, as they should. And she was like, okay, you know what? Nice. And she took Jennifer's experience very seriously. Yeah. And Bonnie ended up calling that night a house meeting. Ooh. So the whole family that night, they get together. They're in the living room and they're sharing all of their experiences and what's been going on. And everyone is actually opening up and to just a bunch of stuff. And they're lining up stories like, oh, that happened to me and that happened to me. And just weird coincidences that are lining up. So now the whole family is just taking this shit like super serious. Yeah. And they're like, okay, well, what are we going to do? Like, and Bonnie said, I'm going to go right to the top with this one. And she called Ed and Lorraine Warren. Oh. And in case you've been living under a rock for like a century, Ed and Lorraine Warren are the famous demonologists who inspired movies like The Conjuring, Annabelle, and A Haunting in Connecticut.
One of our favorites,
Absolutely.
All classics.
We look up to them, truly. So Bonnie, she picks up the phone of the time, whichever flip, kick, whatever it was, of the 2000s, and she's like, Lorraine, Ed? No, 2000s. So she would have flipped it up. She would have, Ed, Lorraine, we got a lot of things going on and I need your assistance. No, but Bonnie remembered the reason why she wanted Ed and Lorraine Warren's expertise and people of their caliber so bad was because she recently had remembered the famous case that they did.
Which one?
The Amityville house. So she's like, aha, they must know how to deal with this stuff. So they're like, oh my gosh, we're already on the way.
We were waiting for your call.
She puts in the request for them to come down. And Jennifer, she's kind of upset because she herself, even though with the experiences that she's having in her own home, just those weird things as a teen where she didn't trust Ed and Lorraine Warren. Why? And she didn't trust, her words specifically, the Ghostbusters to help them in this situation. She just didn't have high hopes that they really could help her and her family.
Thought they were like scam artists.
Yeah. She was kind of like the last one on board, but she was like, you know what? At this point, like, whatever. So Ed and Lorraine, you already know, they waste no time pulling up. As soon as they step through the threshold, Lorraine says that she can automatically feel like a super heavy presence. So she's going through the rooms, and of course, without being told whose room belongs to who, she automatically is super drawn to Jennifer's room. And she said that this is where most of the darkness was like harboring, was in that room. Damn. And as she's going through the rooms and getting a feel for everything, the energy, she is hit with like this flash image in her mind of just a big demonic entity. And she said that she recalls that she can feel the anger and like the hate just emanating from it.
It was just an uncomfortable, chilling type experience.
And so she right away tells the Beckwith family, you have what we call an infestation, because she was picking up on multiple energies, not just that demonic energy, an infestation of entities. So an infestation is not always like 100% demonic. An infestation could be like spirits, just multiple spirits. It doesn't always necessarily have to be negative entities or low vibrational. It's just a big gathering of an infestation of spirits. But yeah, most of the time negative. So Lorraine is explaining to the family what she's feeling, and she said that the main negative evil presence was a non-human entity, amongst other things. And so the Beckwiths, Bonnie was like, oh, a demonic entity. Okay, so we're gonna move. And we're out. So they automatically were like, okay, so we're gonna just sell the house and we're gonna go. And that's that. Right? They were just like completely
that's how I would be too. Like, we out.
So
thank you for your services.
Right.
That's enough for me. Shit.
Ed and Lorraine were like, no, wait, hold on. You don't have to do that yet. Plus, Lorraine was explaining to the family that if you left now at this point, it doesn't matter where you went. Whatever is here potentially can follow you. And no matter what house, no matter how far, this could, happen at your next place. Yeah. So the best option is to stay and fight. So they were like, no, all right, cool. All right, we'll do that too. Yeah, fuck it. We'll stay and fight.
Well, if you twist my arm.
Right. So that's what they did. They agreed. Okay, we're going to stay and fight. But yeah, they were just trying to reassure them that you can't run away from problems like these because they do snowball into other things down the road. So the Warrens told them in the meantime to keep to have everyone in the family keep a camera by their side. So whenever creepy stuff is happening, just start snapping pictures.
Recording. Oh,
yep.
Snapping pictures.
And to keep them, keep all the pictures and everything, document everything. So the family agreed to do this. And the family, they're still very anxious. They're like, is this going to work? Like, they're not sure, like, the Warrens protocol. Yeah. So they're like, what the hell, But they agreed anyway, because, again, at this point...
It's like, what do you have to lose?
Right. So they agreed. And the family, they're still anxious, and the activity in the home is increasingly growing, like, by the day. So they're like, you need to hurry this along.
We need the speed course, like. And
November comes around when Bonnie's mother, who was usually a very warm-hearted woman, grandma vibes. Yeah. She's like, hey, I'm going to come over for Thanksgiving. Let's do Thanksgiving. And the Beckwiths were like, nervous laughter.
Stay out.
And they actually were like, you know what? You can't, but this is what's going on. And they explained to her everything that's going on with the Warrens, with the house. Yeah. They let it rip. And she was like, okay, I'll still come. My grandkids, I want to see my grandkids, completely went over, you know what I mean? Her mom's
What if
head.
She's like possessed? They got her. They got to her.
But she comes anyway. So November comes, Thanksgiving comes. The night before Thanksgiving, she drives into town. And she shows up at the Beckwiths. So, she's there, and they're having a good time. And now nighttime comes. And Bonnie's mother is getting settled in the room and everything. And she's, taking her medication. And she's watching TV and sitting on the edge of the bed as she's doing this when the TV just shuts off. And she's like, ugh, the heck? Yeah, but she just figures it's an older TV. Maybe it's going, whatever. So she goes and she turns the TV back on. And then she sits back down on the bed. A few seconds later, does the same thing, shuts off. But this time, as she looks into the TV, she sees 3 shadowy figures in the TV standing right there. So she turns her head to where they would have been in the room, and nothing was there.
No way.
This was enough for her to be like, you know what?
Shit.
Thanksgiving can wait till next year, baby. And the next day she was out.
They're like, we warned you. Like, damn. So she stayed the night still? Yeah.
She stayed the night, and the next morning she was like, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to wrap this Thanksgiving shit up.
Be out. I'm out. Fuck the turkey.
So Jennifer, after this, she ran into the room where her grandmother was staying, and she remembered the Warrens telling her, snap those photos. So that's what she did. She went into the room and she started snapping the pictures. And as she went into the room, she described it as being significantly colder than the rest of the house, to the point where she could like pretty much see like
Your breath.
the breath. Yeah.
Damn.
A few days after this, the Warrens ended up coming back to do like another investigation, and the family shows them all the photos that they've taken. And it's funny because see, this entity was smart. It didn't want to get captured on photos.
Yeah.
And it tried its hardest not to.
I would love to see those pictures.
So most of the photos were normal except for a couple.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Which was really crazy because out of all the photos that they've taken, they were all normal except for two.
A lot more evidence. Like
this
like
demon,
photo evidence.
this entity did not want to be photographed. It didn't. And some entities, honestly, really don't. They're smart enough to manipulate technology where you'll never capture them.
They don't want to be. Of course they don't want to be.
No photos, please. No photos, please. Well, Ed and Lorraine Warren, they arrived with their crew members, everybody documenting everything. And one of the people was a psychic medium named Lee. And her job was to connect with the spirits there and try and answer questions and figure out who, what, where, when, and why, basically. Never made it as a wise man. Your sleep demon. And he just stands in the corner like, never made it as a wise man. Jesus Christ, that would be horrible. Your sleep paralysis demon. There it is.
Oh, man.
That would be the
Emo demon.
Wait, his fur like this.
Emo ass demon. Wait.
So the two photos that they had didn't capture anything like absolutely crazy, but it had these anomalies on it where Lorraine said that it wasn't a full apparition. It was actually the energy of the manifestation happening. So it was the entity in the manifestation process of trying to show itself. And then that's what Jennifer must have captured, was that moment where it was manifesting and not fully in its final form. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So even though it wasn't a full, it was something.
Okay. We'll go with it.
And so as they were looking at the photo, as they put it down, Lee, the psychic medium, she starts shaking, right? She starts her hand starts shaking. And this apparently is protocol to Lorraine and them, because she was like, oh, shit. This lady needs a pen and paper.
Stat.
So they get it for her, and she starts what is called automatic writing. And this is a form of spirit communication and divination, and it's actually used quite a lot amongst intuitives. So she starts automatic writing, and it's reported that in these sessions, the clairvoyant or the medium goes into a trance-like state, and essentially the spirit kind of takes over and starts writing. Yeah. And so she starts doing this, writing frantically. Go look and see what it says, and it's just get out.
No way.
You don't belong here.
No.
And the family was so they knew that they were dealing with mean ghosts and stuff, but hearing that, get out, you don't belong here, this really, really frightened the family.
Okay, now you're just hurting our family.
Yeah, they're listen, you don't have to be fucking mean. You make your point, mate. Yeah, that was really hurtful to them. They were like, you know what hurts the most? Was hearing me say that. They're like, you can do all this, but they were really hurt by that, okay? Yeah. So they were like, that's it, we're just gonna go, for real. No. And again, Ed and Lorraine were like, again, you don't need to go that far. It's not that, look, fam, it's not that deep. Again, they had to talk them out of selling their house and moving away, and explaining to them, again, that no matter where you go, this can attach itself to you and follow you. So they're staying and fighting again. So they're like, okay, we're going to stay and fight.
We'll take
still. So after the automatic writing incident, the photos, the everything, and just the overall vibe and energy presence in the house, this just drains everybody. It takes a lot of their energy. So everyone is spent, right? Everyone's tired. Both parties go their own ways. And before they do, Lorraine advises the family that they should all sleep together in the living room. That way, no one is singled out and targeted.
Yeah. Good idea.
So that's what they did. They all started sleeping in the living room. And so two crew members from Ed and Lorraine's team actually stayed that night to kind of observe and collect evidence.
Yeah.
And as they did, they reported like strange noises all throughout the night. Okay. At one point, the crew reported hearing like scratches and banging coming from inside of the walls, and then from the ceilings, and then from the floor.
What the hell? Damn. Sleeping throughout it. Like...
Yep. And Bonnie, she's talking to Jennifer, like, before they went to bed, she was like talking to Jennifer, and she just freezes and went, like, just absolutely stone like a statue, because she felt like just something walk through her body. Like, and it was so cold, she said. Like, yeah, it was a scary experience she had.
Messing with them at this point.
Yeah, and Jennifer, so it went through Bonnie and then passed through Jennifer.
Oh, shit.
Because they were standing talking to each other, and this freaked them out so bad. So after the Warrens leave and everything, you know, and the family's like trying to turn in for the night, they left a recorder in one of the rooms and they shut the door. And they went to like review the recording, and they said that it sounds like 1,000 birds flapping their wings.
No way.
But there was no birds like in the room or anything, you know, so just like really
like
strange.
Noise interference or something like that.
Could be. But they were just capturing weird stuff like that.
Yeah.
The two crew members that stayed overnight, they made their way into Jennifer's room, and they wanted to see like if the entity like was intelligent or not. So they attempted to make contact by like, you know, provoking it and stuff. And they established like, okay, 1 knock for yes, 2 knocks for no. And so throughout the night, they're asking it questions and gathering like, you know, information and stuff. And this is where they find out that there's actually 3 main entities in the home. One of which is the non-human, so the main like demon, and then 2 human spirits. So basically it's just those 3 tormenting like everybody, right? So the crew, so the crew the next day, they pack up their stuff, they leave, they bring all the evidence to the Warrens and everything. And 2 days later, Ed and Lorraine come back with what they think, you know, and they're talking with the family and everything. So Lorraine is like, I want to find out more about this entity, the negative one, the demon. So as they're talking, you know, they're all in the kitchen, they're talking, Lee starts shaking, and they remembered from last time, oh shit, she's about to do her automatic writing thing. So that's what she started doing. She was writing so fast, so fast.
I want to see that like in real life, just...
Yeah. So they start asking like, who are you? Like, why are you here? Ed's like, what year is it? And as he like asked the last question, left his mouth, Lee stops. Yeah. And in a deep, growly, raspy voice, she turned to Ed and said,
who are you to ask me questions? You don't have the right.
Damn.
And then the entity told Ed to shut your mouth.
Damn.
Yeah.
This entity is not messing around.
No.
That shit is rude as hell.
Rude, mean. So it's reported that Lee is like kind of a small woman. And as the entity says, like, shut up, Ed, she gets up and takes the big ass oak kitchen table.
Oh, man.
And repeatedly tries to shove it like into Ed, and it pinned him like against the wall.
What the fuck?
And it took 3 grown men to get her to stop.
No way.
So she finally comes to, and she's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And they're like, holy crap, we got this mofo now. But yeah, they were like, ooh, this is good. Let's see what's on that paper. So there was a few things that was written on the paper. There was 2 names, Anna and George Robinson, and then 188, and then that was it. So kind of like, it looked like a year, like 1880, you know, whatever. So they were like, okay, we got our work cut out for us, all right? Right? Spirit's very cryptic, right? Very just a few. Do your little investigation work. So that night, the family, again, they all slept together in the living room and stuff. And, hold on. Jennifer and Bonnie got super like curious of like who these people were. Like, who's Anna?
I would be
Who's
too.
George? What's 88? Whatever. So they go down to the public library to get like the records of like the property and the house and everything, where they actually end up finding out that George Robinson was one of the original owners of the house.
Oh shit. Damn.
In the year 1888.
Ooh. 888.
Yep. Okay. In the year 1888. So they were like,
damn.
So they were at that moment were like, okay, there's a lot of truth to this whole ghost busting thing, you know, because like they were skeptical about the whole. Well, the daughter was mostly, but now like this solidified what Lee had wrote down and everything.
Yeah. Damn.
And you know, curiosity just takes over, and they find themselves at an old graveyard near their house, where the first grave they stumbled upon belonged to none other than George Robinson himself.
No way.
Yeah.
They went down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, and they were led right to his grave.
Wow.
George Robinson was born in 1860 and died in 1927.
Okay.
But then they couldn't really find too much about the name Anna, though. That was kind of stumping them. They were like, They couldn't. And they realized that the reason why that they couldn't find any records was because the town, I think back in the 50s, had like a crazy flood, and it washed out a lot of the records. Yeah, so a lot of things were lost. A lot of stuff was damaged, and a lot of damage done to the town during that time of the flood. So they kind of...
it was maybe his wife or anything? No?
Okay. Possibly. But they couldn't find anything because they think that a lot of the records were destroyed in the flood.
Damn.
Yeah. That's too bad.
Well, there she goes, boys.
Family, you know, they're just trying their best at this point to just maintain life and just maintain everyday order. And it is so hard for them. It's mentally and physically exhausting, being tormented all day long. I mean, all night long by these like entities, and then still having to get up, go to work, go to school, live your life still. So it just became like really, really taxing on everybody, you know, and everyone was just exhausted because...
That is very draining.
Yeah. And they just wanted like a few good nights of sleep and just peace. So around Christmas time, they actually get a few nights of quietness, and everything seems cool in the house. And they're like,
quiet,
you know,
before the storm, though, like...
Yeah. Well, the kids were gathered in a room one night, like wrapping presents. When...
Oh no, Christmas time too?
When they reported hearing one of the door handles start to jiggle, and then the other door handle started, and then another door handle, then eventually all the door handles everywhere were just shh. And the kids reported it sounding like people standing at every single door just trying their hardest to get in. And this freaked them the F out so bad. They ran out of the room crying, screaming, telling their parents what was going on and everything. So as the kids run downstairs and they're telling Bonnie and her husband like what's going on, and they're just really like shaken up. So Bonnie calls Ed and Lorraine again, and she's like, okay, so I've already arranged a priest to come and like bless the house, and hopefully this should like do the trick, you know, this should like really do it. So they're like, okay, we've heard this before, but okay.
Yeah, could have did that ourselves, but all right.
So only several hours later, the priest arrives at the house, and he gets to work right away. He's blessing it. He's splashing the whole. This is the holy water. He's splashing it everywhere. He's doing his priesty thing, and like when he's done blessing the home and everything, that like heavy, dense, like negative presence kind of feeling. Fog feeling is kind of like lifted away for a little bit. So the family was like, ooh, sweet. So after the priest left, days after this, Bonnie reports like having these like crazy visions of like a tree, a specific tree, and like certain things, right? And she actually feels called to start writing things down herself. So that's what she does. And she said she felt so compelled to like write and like draw things. She had to do it. She's like, I couldn't sleep if I didn't do it. That's what I felt, like how strongly she needed to just do her own automatic writing. So as she's getting this flash image of like a tree, she's drawing it over and over and over and over and over. She is overcome with like intense sadness and like grief, and like she starts crying as she's drawing it over and over. This tree, right? Like this intense sorrow. So she starts to believe that maybe Anna, the other name, must have been a woman who was alive at some point and experienced great loss in her life, and maybe it had something to do with that tree. So that's kind of the feeling that she got from that.
Maybe she like hung herself on the tree.
Quite possibly. Or a loved one, or something happened to a loved one in a tree. Who knows, you know? So she believes she saw like Anna coming to her because she started to see a woman. So she started drawing the woman, and then she believed it was Anna. But because there's no records, there's no way
could confirm it.
to confirm it.
That's pretty sad.
And she said as she was drawing, she just was mourning the entire time. As time continues to pass, the family is still sleeping in the living room. Like I said, they're still exhausted, still having experiences and everything.
Still dreaming.
So Bonnie ended up reaching out again to Ed and Lorraine, like, please, anything at all.
They blocked him by this point.
Anything else that you have up your sleeve would greatly be appreciated. Because whatever that whole priest blessing thing was, it didn't last long. And Lorraine feared that it only angered whatever was there and didn't actually get rid of it. So she feared that when it came back, it was going to come back with like a vengeance.
So she knew that, but she still...
She had fears, she had doubts, but she didn't want to give in to it, but it happened. So one night the family is laying in the living room when books just start flying off their shelves right at them, one by one, hitting them and everything.
Oh my God.
And this was just enough. Like Bonnie was so stressed and tired and drained at this point that she just explodes, and she's like, you guys, like, I really, really need help. Like, stop the silliness. Get me some real help, you know? So Ed and Lorraine, you know, they arrange an exorcist to come to the house now. Bonnie and her husband, Sean, they really considered leaving. They were like, you know what? This isn't getting better. Might as well just leave. And again, the Warrens convinced them again to stay and fight, because you don't want to give up. You want to stay and fight. You want to fight it out. Don't just throw in the towel, especially with these things. So they agreed. They were like, okay, we're going to give it like one last shot, but like it's got to be a good one, you know? So the exorcist comes into town, right? He comes. And so after making that phone call for help, Bonnie is compelled to like draw again, right? So she starts drawing like this image of like a triangle. And then each side of the triangle was like, one side was like a storm and the other was like heavenly, right? And then there was 3 spirits heading towards like the triangle. And she didn't really know like what that meant, but she knew like it was important. Like it was just a weird, like, you know, and it was weird how it was 3 spirits and then she's being haunted by essentially 3 spirits. But Lorraine was curious because she felt maybe it could possibly be that the demonic entity there was controlling or intimidating the 2 human spirits. And maybe that's why they couldn't leave either. So Lorraine realized, okay, if I can get rid of the demon, I can get rid of everything else. If he goes, maybe they'll go too. So as Bonnie is like channeling this image and she's drawing it, she gets a phone call from Lorraine. And she's like, Lorraine, oh my God, funny you called me because I'm in the middle of drawing. And she's like, I know, stop drawing, put the pen down, because you're opening a door. You keep opening this door, you keep creating a channel. And when you do, anything can step through. And the situation that you're in, honey, you don't want to push it. So she's like, all right, I'll stop drawing.
Getting her to open the portals.
Yeah.
Damn.
That's essentially what when you channel, you're opening yourself up to communication, but to communication to everything and anything.
Yeah.
The following day was Christmas Eve, and, good old Bonnie's mom, remember her? Bonnie's mom was like, you know what? I think I'm going to give this a try, another try. And they're like, no, you don't have to. It's the same. It's the same as Thanksgiving.
It's worse now, yeah.
It's worse, but she's like, it's fine, whatever. So she comes anyway for Christmas.
Oh, no.
And she's like, all right, I'm going to try it again. So they're like, skeptical, like, okay. So she gets there. All of a sudden comes down with a serious fever of like 104 and climbing.
No
fever,
way.
And they cannot get it to come down.
No.
So they are just like, okay, we're going to have to rush her to the hospital. Like, what's going on? So she gets rushed to the hospital, where the hospital actually wants to keep her overnight for observation. Wow. And when they did, they found, upon doing all the tests, Bonnie's mother had an irregular heartbeat, which she's never had before, never was diagnosed with anything like that before, was in assumingly perfect health until that point.
Holy shit.
So that was like too much of a coincidence,
Home.
So Bonnie was like, oh my God, okay, like, I need to pray. So she and her mom start, okay, well, why don't we start to say some prayers so you get better, so we make it home, whatever. And as they begin to pray, she notices her mom can't remember the words. And as she tries to say them, the words begin to be jumbled. Like she can't say the prayer itself.
No, what the hell?
And she's saying it backwards and it's jumbled. So Bonnie's like, okay. And she goes to find like the hospital's chaplain. And she explains to him, I need you to come pray with like me and my mom. She's being weird.
She's being weird.
She's just like, weird things going on. I need you to come pray with me and my mom. We're upstairs in the hospital room, whatever. So he's like, all right. So as he goes up and he's, praying with Bonnie and her mom, simultaneously across town, Bonnie's oldest daughter, she was out running some last minute Christmas errands, coming around a corner when a car slammed into her head on.
No way.
Like at the same time as like they're in the hospital praying. Yeah. It's like so weird. So Bonnie's had it. She's like, this is enough. Enough. Like this is like the mom, the car crash with her daughter. It's getting so out of hand.
Yeah. That is like a lot to deal with, especially when you know it's coming from like these demons.
Mm-hmm. So 2 days later, Ed and Lorraine, obviously, Bonnie calls them frantically, and they arrange for a exorcist to come out and to perform an exorcism. And as they approached, like, he could just tell right away, oh, we're dealing with something big here. As soon as he stepped through the threshold, he could feel the presence. And he knew right away, like, what he was dealing with. Like, that was not his first rodeo at all. So the priest ended up coming up with this plan to use Lee essentially as bait, like the psychic medium as bait. Yeah, he's like some rogue exorcist. No, I'm kidding. I don't know.
Yeah, some rogue exorcist guy.
It was a pretty bold move though, but he was like, you know what? We're going to try this.
Don't play by the rules.
No.
This guy.
So they grab Lee and they're preparing her for like what's about to occur. And the priest starts with the blessing and everything. Basically hoping to like stir up the energy by first doing like the blessing and everything. And as he does this, Lee begins to like fall into a trance. And he looked over at her and he noticed like this really evil like grin like on her face, right? And he's like, okay, now we're talking, right? And Lee begins to like growl and hiss and just make these guttural sounds, that obviously are not her normal
non-human sounds, yeah.
And these noises, like, they're coming from her. Like, it's just, it's getting intense. The priest places a cross. He places a cross on Lee's forehead. And when she, like, glanced back up at him, she was just like had this evil, sinister smile on her face, like this evil grin. And at the same time, he heard wood splintering and breaking. And as he like looked down, Lee was breaking off the points of the chair where her legs were tied down at.
What the hell? Damn.
And as she like breaks off the arms and legs of the chair, she jumps on the priest and starts growling and like hissing at him. She's going like full on classic cliche exorcist style on this priest.
Starts throwing up in his face.
So they're going on with the exorcism and it lasts for like over another hour.
Wow.
Finally, her body just goes limp, right? And the feeling of just like 1,000 eyes and everything is finally lifted.
No way.
That cloud of heaviness seems to be gone. It feels light in the room again.
So wait, they did it after what, 1 hour?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, okay.
Over an hour, yeah. Well, I don't know how long it lasted, but it was a long time.
It was a long, yeah.
After the exorcism was done, things seemed to feel okay in the house. They felt like they never felt before, honestly. But that would shortly come to an end.
No way. Come on.
The Beckwiths, they can't catch a break. Like, they really can't.
They should have just moved out. Like,
They always go with your first instinct.
yeah. What the fuck?
They can't catch a break because activity stirred up again in their house when the county decided to bulldoze a lot across the street, digging up human remains.
No way.
Which they revealed or come to the realization that what they dug up was actually a native burial ground.
Oh.
So the Beckwiths report activity in their home, but nothing compared to what they were dealing with. They actually report like some of the experiences in their house now being like super minimal and minor, things that are easy to live with, that easy to brush off.
Yeah. They're like, we'll take the native burial ground over.
They're like, we'll take the native ghosts any day.
That's fun.
Over those dicks.
Yeah.
But they begin to explain the new occurrences as like their own personal friendly to Casper, and they don't necessarily blame like the ghosts. What they do blame is, you know, the plot of land across from them being unearthed, and they essentially realize that all of that unearthing of, you know, the ground essentially stirred up,
shook some things up,
some stuff, and you know, finding bones too. Yep, that'll do it.
Yikes.
But they lived with it, and the family lived in that home up until 2005, where essentially they ended up just packing up and just selling it and just moving on with their lives anyway. So that, my friends, was the long and stony version. I'm sorry, it was long, of the Beckwith family haunting, aka the Hell House case.
That was good. I liked it.
What do you guys think really happened, like, in that area, in that land, in that house? Comment if you want. I'm kind of curious.
Like, why was there natives buried under that house?
Well, it was the land.
Do you think they were buried under like all the houses?
Well, because in the beginning, that area was known to have a lot of wars between the settlers and the natives. So,
wow,
maybe. Anyways, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, interact with this video any way that you can. It really does help us as creators. Thank you for coming to this sesh as always. And don't forget, if you have your own spooky story you want to write into us, write it into the email in the description box below. We will read it and show you out. Just let us know who you are and where you're from. We know you have a spooky story and you want to tell someone. Tell us.
Tell us.
All right, homies. That is all we have for you today. Thanks for chilling. We will see you in the next sesh. Stay stoned and stay spooky. Bye.
Bye.